time. Yeah, it's for always. I'm gonna love you.
Relationships. So I'm going to be discussing how astrology is an amazing tool for understanding our interpersonal dynamics. Astrology gets a kind of bad rap for putting people into boxes, but having studied a lot of different psychological modalities, getting kind of an overview for all these different tools, I found astrology more than any other really unpacks those boxes. So astrology places the individual into the greater schema of cycles of time. And through this, we can then pick up on generational themes emerging, so the more collective planets and the idea of people born in around 14 years of each other, 7 years of each other, 2.5 years of each other, sharing some visions and ways that they relate to the world. We can also see the way more personal side of astrology that gets unpacked when you look at a natal chart. And this is beyond someone's sun sign, what month they are born in. It goes into where their Mercury was when they were born. What is their unique way of expressing themselves and communicating? It goes into their moon nature, one of the most personal placements. How does that person nurture themselves and then give out nurturance? And then we can also see things like their Venus nature. What are their values? What do they find to be aesthetically pleasing? How do they create beauty? And so all of these things, as you can imagine, are really important when it comes to relationships. Now, this can be something we use for romantic relationships, coworker relationships, parent-child relationships, sibling relationships. It really runs the gamut. It's not exclusively romantic love relationships. So there are two typical charts that astrologers use to do this unpacking. The first is known as a Synastry chart, and that is when you take the natal birth chart of person A and the natal birth chart of person B, and you overlay them, and you see how the two are aspecting one another. How are these charts speaking to one another, essentially? And you can understand through looking at the aspects there, and I'll do another video on aspects. You can understand how these two people could be enhancing, a style of the other person, or perhaps triggering or blocking a style of the other person. It's a very dynamic interplay of seeing how the people relate. The second type of chart that is used for relationship astrology is known as a composite chart. This is when you take the natal birth chart of person A and the natal birth chart of person B, you find the midpoints between them. Thankfully, there's software for this. And then this creates a composite chart. So that is the chart of the midpoints between the two. And so that is the chart of the relationship itself. And composite charts are really cool because it takes into account the fact that a relationship actually has a life of its own. And the dynamics that happen with the union of the people is going to be very different than the individual charts on their own. And so this is a very great tool to use once you've already kind of established a relationship with someone. So someone you've known your whole life, maybe like a parent-child, it'd be really interesting to look at the composite, or a partner you've been with for a long time. Synastry can be, I think, more beneficial in the earlier stages. But it's really up to the astrologer or people involved at what kind of technique is used. I know I personally tend to use Synastry readings more. They make more intuitive sense to me and they're a little less abstract, but it's really up to the people. And finally, I want to talk about how astrologers cannot tell you whether or not you should stay in a partnership. Now, this is particularly for romantic partnerships. Yes, I think we need to just dismiss the fact that an astrologer would tell you whether or not you and your lover should be together. That is ridiculous. An astrologer is going to basically illuminate some of the dynamics at play that might not have been really conscious, but they are not going to be able to say, oh, there's tons of square aspects here, it's never going to work. That is just, I think, absolute garbage. So When getting a reading, always remember your own autonomy, always use the information that's elucidated to make your own decision. And it's up to you and the person you're in a relationship to determine whether the strengths and the growth that happens from that partnership outweighs any pain or any challenges that are present. And finally, I want to say I do Synastry readings, and it's important for me that the people involved both gave consent to share that information, and ideally the people involved in the relationship are both present